Evening, everybody. Here we go. If you saw my video earlier today, you saw that I was a little pessimistic on snow. I thought we would get snow, but thought it was going to be most of the heavy snow was going to be south of us. Still think the very heaviest snow is going to be south of at least me here in central, in Londonderry, which is the very northern end of Windham County. If you're not that familiar with the Vermont geography, I think the heaviest snow is probably in northern Mass and very southern Vermont, but that's a lot closer. If you had asked me this morning, I would have said more like very northern Connecticut, southern Massachusetts. And so what that means is we're all in for quite a bit more snow than I was thinking earlier today. I want to start off, first of all, by saying we have live questions. So and my wife has already typed one in there. So if you have questions, you got any questions about the storm, I'd love to make these live feeds where I'm going to try to talk for a little bit longer, somewhat interactive. So feel free to ask questions in the live feed. I will try to get to them. You'll be able to see yourself pop up on the screen there. So that'll be fun. Otherwise, we're just going to look at a lot of different weather stuff tonight. If you got any questions about anything I talk about, feel free to ask, like I said. And hopefully this will be educational as well as interesting as we look to be getting more snow than I was expecting earlier in the day today. So what happened is basically the noontime models came in and they were significantly. They took everything lurched north a pretty good amount. Excuse me, sorry. And so what that meant was that we're definitely more into the snow. So what's going on here? I want to start with radar and start with what's going on right now. Whoops, as I knock over my water almost. So that we have an idea, so we can get an idea of what's happening. And you'll notice here is, this actually doesn't have a ton of moist precipitation going on with it currently, but here is our precipitation associated with this is mostly our upper level energy, although there's a surface low associated with what's going on here as well. And then we're going to look a bunch at this, but this is very interesting. This is the surface low that is already starting to form, that eventually this surface low here, which is kind of the leftover part of a front, or really just a jet streak that's heading out to sea. And we're going to look to why that exists right now. And this piece of upper level energy and a little bit of surface low are going to come together and form a storm off the coast of the Carolinas, and it's going to head up the coast just south of Long Island and then kind of across Cape Cod. It's a pretty ideal track for snow for us. It's definitely an ideal track for all snow. We have plenty of cold air. Unlike a week and a half ago on the weekend when I when we got skunked out here in Vermont because we never got into the real heavy precipitation because the temperatures were very marginal. There's plenty of cold air around this time, so no doubt all snow. I don't think you have any issues worrying even about any sleet until you get into Connecticut. So maybe very like places like Springfield, Mass. Maybe you might have some sleet, but basically everywhere north of that, all snow and pretty heavy snow. Nice fluffy snow too, though. Not heavy in terms of like heavy shovel, but heavy in terms of it'll fall heavy. I wanted to take a look at satellite because I think this shows an interesting part of the story here. One, you can see that piece of energy across the center of the country. That's pretty well defined. And you look here and you said, well, Chris, you said there was some sort of surface low just starting to form off the southeast coast. You can't see it at all. And in this view, you can't, which is really kind of interesting because it's completely a surface low. Almost has some, if this was a different time of year, you'd be worried about tropical development with this storm, actually. And let me show you why. We're going to look at a different view. Sorry, let me close this down. And this is the visible satellite imagery. And I'm going to draw it on there. I think you'll see it better if I draw it on there for you. Right here, you can see this swirl in the clouds. That is only at like basic, way down at the surface. There is a little bit of mid-level low pressure system as well. We'll look at that on the maps here in a second. That's associated with this, but basically this is a surface feature that's building up. It's building from the bottom up in the atmosphere, as opposed to most mid-latitude storms, which tend to build from like upper level energy transferred down and causing surface responses. This is kind of a low pressure system starting at the surface that is slowly building up into the atmosphere. It's also going to respond to this upper level trough here. And so That's just really an interesting feature. And part of it is it's developing and it's pumping a lot of low-level moisture into the storm, which is why, even though the storm is not going to be that strong, much weaker in terms of an actual storm, the satellite imagery over New England won't look nearly as impressive as the storm did a week and a half ago. That storm a week and a half ago, very, very impressive in terms of just overall raw strength of the storm. This storm will not be nearly as strong, but it'll have a ton of moisture and a huge temperature gradient with it, and that can be as much of a factor in terms of whether a storm is significant or not as the actual strength of the storm, right? A weaker storm, but one that's got ample moisture and a big temperature gradient to work with can give you more, from a practical standpoint, can be a bigger deal than a storm that's just stronger from a raw energy standpoint. And this one will be one of those. It's not going to be an overly strong storm from a energy standpoint, but it will be a very strong, there'll be a ton of moisture associated with it. Of course, moisture equals snow, so in this case, that's kind of a big deal. What it will mean, too, though, is wind will not be an issue with this storm either, so except for maybe way down, right along the coast in New England, and even there, not a huge deal. There was a very strong high pressure to the system to the north, so right along the coast, there could be some wind issues, but nothing here in Vermont. We won't have any wind issues. There should be basically no power issues as a result of the storm, which is a nice thing. Should be just a storm that we can enjoy. If you don't like snow, it will at least be easy to move around. I want to go back and look a little bit more at some of those details, and I'm going to adjust this so that hopefully, let me get rid of my squiggles here. And I'm going to try to adjust this screen so that you can see a little bit better what's going on. Sorry about that. I'll try to enlarge what I'm doing here. Nope. This is why. Whoops. That's interesting. Okay. Let's see, now we lose everything. We're going to add that back in. Sorry about that. That one. Yes, there we go. Okay. So, let me make this little section of the map here that I've got bigger. And hopefully that'll help us see a little bit better what's going on. You'll be able to see here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is at, actually I want to look and go at the surface here, and let me draw on that. Let me put this behind me so you can see me. Right here we've got our surface low pressure system that you can just see. There's just a little bit of spin in the clouds here. That's our surface low that is starting to develop off the Florida coast. We also have this surface low way back here. That's kind of the surface low that's associated with that bigger upper level piece of energy that's essentially kind of here. This storm is basically going to drift north, straight north, while this storm kind of continues to swing this way. And eventually this upper level, they're going to kind of combine. This storm here is going to start to die out. The energy from this storm here will sort of die south of Alabama and transfer its energy northeast to this storm, along with the upper level energy heading over there. And so then we're going to get our real developing coastal low, and actually that might be too far east. It's actually more like probably will develop somewhere right here, right basically near Cape Hatteras, maybe just inland from Cape Hatteras. And then the storm tracks up and kind of out to sea like this. What's a little interesting is the only thing that's maybe not traditional from a traditional nor'easter about this storm in terms of storm track is you would often want like a storm track that went kind of from here and then went, well, maybe even closer to the coast certainly, and kind of up and hugged up the coast, because you tend to get a more wraparound snow that way on the back end. So more you get that, your snow, you get more wraparound snow on that back end as the low pressure's over here. That probably, we won't get as much of that. But the banding that happens as the storm heads north, where on the north edge here of the storm is going to be impressive for a while, and I think it'll be impressive enough to give us a pretty good dumping of snow. The places that see the most snow will be the places that get that on this banding on the front end, and also get a bit of wraparound snow on the back end as the storm pulls out this way. So the places that probably get the most, my guess is the Catskills. Probably get the most snow out of this, Poconos maybe, where definitely there's a chance for 2+ feet of snow down that way. But in terms of, yeah, I think the storm, because of this kind of exit east, the storm will tend to not give us as prolonged a period of snow, which means we probably won't see those huge kind of totals. As you'll see, and I'm still, I think, somewhat conservative, but I'll show you my snowfall totals in a little bit. They're not huge, but they're big, and we're actually could see more. Anyways, more. Matter of fact, let me just pop those up because otherwise you're going to be confused. So here's what I'm currently thinking about. Let me get rid of my squiggles. We're looking at basically 2 to 4 inches north of central Vermont, kind of in northern Vermont. If you get down into central Vermont, it's more like a 4 to 7 inches of snow. 6 to 9 inches for most of us here in Windham and Bennington County. 8 to 12 in southern, particularly Windham County, and also a little bit in Bennington, the higher terrain in Bennington County. I would not be surprised if I had to bump these numbers up. Some of this is a hold on to the models came in very aggressive at noon today. And then we have like some intermediate models that come in at about middle of the afternoon this afternoon. They came in slightly less bullish, but still more aggressive than this map would portray. But just given how big of a jump that was from one model run to the next, I wanted to be a little careful. To be full disclosure, if we just went straight with what the models are looking like as of this noontime storm, where it says 4 to 7, I'd probably say 6 to 10. Where it says 6 to 9, I'd probably say 8 to 12 or 14. Where it says 8 to 12, I'd say 10 to 16 inches of snow. So these numbers could, and I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow morning these numbers bumped up to there. So a pretty good dumping of snow. I would say if, particularly in southern Vermont here, if this area, the higher terrain particularly here, if they get into any of any real strong banding, somebody in here or in northern Mass will see 20 plus inches of snow. I think it'll probably be in northern Mass, but somebody will see more snow. Hey, I just got a question from Laura Burbank. Think we'll be okay flying from Detroit to Syracuse on Thursday. Laura's my sister-in-law, and they're moving from Seattle to more like the Philadelphia area. I think Syracuse should be, you should be okay in Syracuse, Laura. You're far enough west where I think you should be mostly okay. It could be a little bit of snow on the ground when you land, but it shouldn't be too bad. And they're used to landing planes in Syracuse in the snow, so I think you'll be all right. But yeah, that's just one more thing to think about while they're traveling. Anyway, also to answer my kids' questions from earlier, yes, I think it'll be good sledding snow. My son loves to sled. He's been sliding on heavy frost days. He's been sliding. He slid when we got about an inch of snow the other day. He went slide. Yeah, so I think you'll be able to slide, and it won't be gone in a day. I think you'll be able to slide for longer than that. A few more details in terms of what we're looking at as we go up in the atmosphere. So I want to go back to this screen capture here, and I want to go to this here. So remember, we saw, just to kind of reiterate, before I got sidetracked, because that's what happens to me when I start rambling, we had this low pressure at the surface here, right? If we start to go up in the atmosphere a little bit, oops, let me go back there. We'll see that at 925. So this is like the low atmosphere, but it's above the surface. You can find there is a bit of a surface or a low pressure system here at 925. It's to the west. That's pretty normal as we go up in the atmosphere. If we go up another layer in the atmosphere to 850, which is kind of the height of it's kind of the top of the boundary layer a lot of times, or about that. You can see there is still a low pressure system at 850 there, kind of again west. But you can see they're real weak. If you get up much higher than that, you can see there is no, if we go up to say like 500 millibars, which is where you'd see, we've got this, you can see our upper level low pressure system to our west here that's causing all the cloudiness. There is almost nothing here across the southeast showing you any upper level help yet. Although the upper level help is coming, because this is going to catch up and it's going to provide the upper level help that this little low pressure system at the surface needs. One thing you can tell, why is this low pressure system happening at those lower levels of the atmosphere, besides just the fact that you've got a bit of a swirl in the clouds. If we go to 700 again, this is just kind of interesting. I told you some of this is going to be nerdy, so if you don't like the nerdiness, hopefully you do like the nerdiness. You can see that the winds are doing this. So there's some wind going this way, and some wind, strong winds going this way, which means that you've got wind moving away from each other. So the wind is, so air is coming in from here. Some of it goes here, some of it goes here. And what happens is that means that there's, that this air here, it creates lower pressure here because more of your air is going north and some of your air is going east like this. And so where you have, and then you've got low pressure here, which causes lift, right? Because something's got to fill this void. And so what happens is you get lift. That's not going north, but it's supposed to be going up here. And that's why we're getting this mid-level response here. And then of course they tend to be stacked kind of not vertically in the atmosphere. They tend to stack kind of at an angle. My hand's going the wrong direction. There we go. And so that's why we're getting that the response from the low pressure system along the coast. And of course, as this system, as the upper level low kicks into it, it will just enhance that, because instead of just having lift up to the mid levels of the atmosphere, it'll have lift all the way through the atmosphere, and that really lets the storm get going. Plus, it will be reinforced by a storm that already has some moisture. A couple things to look at moisture-wise. I do have a picture of that somewhere, but where on earth did I put that? There's upper level. Here we go. Let me, again, get rid of my squiggles. And let me pull this, over a little bit so you can see what, actually, I guess that's actually pretty good. So this shows you the brighter colors mean that there is more what's called precipitable water, which basically is a measure of how much overall moisture there is in the atmosphere that can be rained out. Particularly, it's kind of at the low and mid levels. High level or high, like upper level moisture doesn't matter that much for whether precipitation is happening or not, because all of our precipitation is basically created in the low and mid levels. But so this shows you a couple of places where we're building moisture in the air already, basically the bright colors. So those two places are here, where that low pressure system is starting to build surface moisture. And of course here, where because we've got that upper level low, we have a fetch of moisture coming in off the Gulf Coast. As this heads east, it's going to have, obviously over the Gulf, you always have lots of low level and mid level moisture over the Gulf because it's very, very warm water. So that's going to move all of that north. And then this is going to continue to build moisture as it heads north. And you can see, obviously, once you get up here into the Atlantic, you don't have as much precipitable water because the water is much cooler. But the pump will already be primed. All of this moisture here, let me get rid of my squiggles again. All of this moisture that you see here is going to have plenty of opportunity to get dumped on top of what's very dry air here in Canada. That's nosing down into us. And our player there, the other thing that's going to happen, another thing you look for with a storm oftentimes, as we get a little closer to wrapping up at the end here, this high pressure system is going to come over the top of us, and it's going to kind of sit, and it's going to do what we kind of have a banana high you often think of. They kind of look like so, and they look a little bit like a banana, and what they do is they kind of inhibit the movement of the storm to the north. Now, this one doesn't have quite as much of the nose down in this end here is a little weaker, so the storm, instead of like really kind of stalling, this would be like super ideal storm. We'd kind of stall right in this area, and we'd get like 30 inches of snow. That's not going to happen. This little lobe down here is going to kind of weaken, and the storm's going to be able to scoot east. So we're still going to get a big storm, but not as much. So just to kind of hit the highlights again as we wrap up the storm. Thanks for everybody who's watching me. These are a lot of fun. Please keep asking those questions over the time as we continue doing these on bigger storms like this. And tomorrow I'll probably do another live look at the storm. We'll have more kind of details about some of the just interesting tidbits of information about it. Ask questions in the comment section on YouTube. It's fun for me. It's a way to interact. It's about the only thing I really miss about moving everything from Facebook Live to YouTube. YouTube is so much easier on my end to work with, but I know in terms of asking questions, it's a little harder on your end. The easiest way to do that, though, is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That makes it a little easier on your end to ask questions. And the questions, it's actually easier just from an organizational standpoint on my end, for everything to be on YouTube and me to just announce everything on Facebook. So ask those questions on YouTube. You can ask them on Facebook. I'm likely to get to those after. I'm happy to answer questions that you ask on Facebook, or Facebook message me. I had somebody do that earlier today because they had some questions about travel. If you're traveling, or if you got, I know nobody's doing a lot of traveling right now unless you've got some essential reason you got to do it. But if you've got to go somewhere and you got a question you want to ask about weather, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in Southern Vermont, I'm happy to give you my thoughts about it. I love sharing and talking about the weather that way. So back to snow totals one more time. Like I said, if you weren't here earlier, these snow totals are conservative at this point. And they're bumped up significantly from this morning. So, but I still think this is a safe call. I think we're very likely to see at the bare minimum the lower end of these numbers. So I would be shocked if we saw less than 6 inches like at my house. So I live like here in Londonderry. Well, that's actually a little east of where I live. But anyways, I live about there in Londonderry. I'll be shocked if we don't see 6 inches. I would not be shocked if we saw more than 9, but I'll be shocked if we see less than that. If you live, down here in Wilmington or whatever, or Reedsboro, those kinds of areas in Southern Vermont, I'd be shocked if you didn't see at least 8 inches. If you're up, even if you're over in if you're over in Springfield, I think you're easily going to see 4 inches of snow, probably more. If you're up in Rutland, you probably are kind of on the line between the 4 to 6, and I think you'll probably see more than 6 inches even in Rutland. So, again, these numbers are pretty conservative at the moment, but because we're only really on one real consistent model where everything was consistently heavier, I wanted to kind of present a reasonable case. So I think you could probably put pluses on all of these. Like I said, if all the models that we've seen today verified, the 2 to 4 is probably more like 4 to 6. The 4 to 7 would be more like 6 to 10. The 6 to 9 is more like 10 to 12, or maybe 8 to 12. And the 8 to 12 is more like 10 to 16, maybe 12 to 18, something like that. So, and again, if the band sets up right, these numbers could be significantly small, because there is going to be a real strong band that sets up. In terms of storm highlights, just one last thing to look at before you go. Plenty of cold air, all snow this time. Snow starts between about 10 p.m. and midnight, a little bit later than I was thinking earlier, so it's delayed a little bit as well. So I think you won't be really until after you basically are at home tomorrow. Snow ends by late morning Thursday, so like by accumulating snow probably comes to an end by between 9 and 10 o'clock. We could probably see some light snow linger through about noon. Travel will be tough Thursday morning. It could snow very heavy at times from about midnight, anytime midnight through about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Any time during that period, we could be seeing probably average an inch of snow an hour there in a lot of places, just about. But there is definitely the possibility to see some places where 2 to 3 inches of snow falls in an hour. So anytime that happens, it becomes basically almost impossible to see and travel. So just be prepared. If you have to go anywhere Thursday morning, it's got to be a slow go. No in-person school is likely Thursday. I don't know how your school districts are dealing with it, but mine is for my kiddos. They have online school on Thursday instead of going in person if it's a snow day. So I would anticipate if your school is doing any in-person learning, they probably won't do it in person on Thursday. Snow will be light and fluffy, and winds are not that strong. So not now. No, I can almost type, No power problems should be anticipated. All right, everybody, thanks. It's been a lot of fun tonight. Let me just pull up the questions one more time. It's been a lot of fun chatting with everybody, and it's certainly my hope that you'll enjoy the snow to the extent that you can. It should look real pretty, and it'll be amazing skiing. Skiing on Thursday, especially Thursday afternoon, will be great, and and skiing on Friday should be really good. It'll remain relatively cold after this too, so the snow should stick around. Doesn't look like any warm-ups at least through the middle of next week at the earliest. No other big storms on the way, doesn't look like either. So this is really our shot at big snow before Christmas. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and we'll be back. I'll have probably a quick update tomorrow that won't be a live broadcast. It'll probably just be a video tomorrow morning, and then I'll probably do another live feed like this tomorrow evening because it's a lot of fun and there'll be a lot to talk about weather-wise. So until then, thanks for joining me, and we will see you again soon.